The recess of the National Assembly enters the first week. Also, controversies thrown up a few days before their break is still gathering steam. Later on the program.
The average man in Nigeria today wants security. It is when Nigeria is secure that it can pursue economic means of livelihood.
Adeogun, Deputy Chairman, House Committee on National Security and Intelligence, talks to us about what is in the report on national security submitted to President Buhari. This is the Hallowed Chambers. I am Tijesu Adiri. The Petroleum Industry Bill passed by the National Assembly is still very contentious, as if wider consultations were not done and no middle ground was found. The bill outrightly rejects the demand of the southern governors for 5% host community equity share. Lawmakers are also divided along regional lines over some clauses in the PIB. Senator Seriaki Dixon, representing Bayelsa West in the oil-rich Niger Delta state, wants President Muhammadu Buhari to withhold his assent of the bill when it's finally transmitted.
First proposal was 5%. That is why I've said that this matter has been so badly mismanaged. President Buhari's initial presentation was 5%. So, with better advice and better strategic thinking, they should have kept it at that 5% and discussed with the oil companies at the executive level. This bill has been strategically mismanaged with respect to the management of the host communities, because it will raise security investments. The Nigerian security forces will be overworked. The Nigerian security forces will need money to work. And all of this is an additional cost you are not factoring in. Meanwhile, if you said 5% and the producing communities are on the same page with you, you have a secure, stable environment. There should be a review. There shouldn't even be a signature. Shouldn't even assent to it. Should send it for more consultative and inclusive work, so that while trying to solve problems, you don't create more problems.
Minority Leader of the Senate, Ainaya Baribe, still disagrees with the decision of lawmakers in the majority party to shoot down the clause that provides for an electronic transfer of election results. The senator insists the decision of the National Assembly is a setback to the country's electoral reform progress.
Bringing in National Assembly into the electoral process means that the National Assembly is no longer outside, that we have stepped into the arena, which no court will agree with. And so, when we canvassed that view, and it was not taken, and there was just this whole thing about, where we come from, there is no network, this and that. And I showed them, personally myself, and I said, I have a document from NCC that says that 90.8% of the country is covered. And that INEC has also said that what they're doing is not just for, saying that there's no network. That you simply snap, and when you reach where there is network, that it simply syncs. We felt that it was simply done than those who were doing it know where they want to do it. In other words, they don't want anything electronic. And we also didn't want this situation that normally happens when we caucus. And then we come back and we say, okay, we have withdrawn our distance. So we now insisted, no, let us all vote. Let Nigerians see what their representatives actually do. I'm glad that Nigerians could now locate those who were there, those who were not there, those who voted for transparency, and those who did not. So that you can now engage your representative and ask him, why did you take this step?
The report of the House of Representatives on national security is now on the desk of President Muhammadu Buhari. This report is believed to contain workable solutions to fixing security and making citizens feel safe again. In recent past, several recommendations on national security were not adopted by the presidency, and they refused to budge under pressure from lawmakers and a wide section of Nigerians over the growing insecurity in many parts of the country. Joining me now to tell us what is in that document dropped on Mr. President's desk is Adejoro Adeogun, Deputy Chairman, House Committee on National Security and Intelligence. It's good to have you on the program. We will start off with the National Working Committee report. As the Deputy Chairman of the committee, run us through what is contained in this document.
On account of the growing cases of insecurity in Nigeria, and then the fact that the House of Representatives was almost on a daily basis having to deliberate on security issues, Mr. Speaker at some point decided that we're going to set up a large committee that will take representatives from across committees and all the geopolitical zones of the country to deliberate on ways of addressing security. The whole idea is that we don't just stay in the chambers criticizing government without preferred solutions. So the committee was set up to look only at what the challenges are within the security sector and then prefer solutions. I think that's what's been done. The report was presented yesterday and adopted by the House, and then I think was delivered to Mr. President yesterday. Basically, the report has two sections. The areas where we think will require legislative actions, which is what the responsibility of the legislature will be to actively strengthen the legislative requirement to enhance better service delivery in the security subsector, and then of course the ones that require executive action. I give an instance of the need for capacity building in the police, especially where we recommended training of additional 40,000 mobile policemen. The whole idea is that if you have that number, you can distribute them to geopolitical zones and they can intervene. And it will reduce the need to always call on the military to intervene. We spoke, just recommended other issues that borders on increasing collaboration between the security agencies and even with improved relationship with civil society to ensure that there's intelligence sharing, there's more intelligence gathered. And then there are other issues that I recommend that include issues of actually delivering better quality governance. That's why the issue of creating special development centers and development commissions in all the geopolitical zones came up, so that if there's development, if jobs are being created, if we have economic improvement, then added to the actions being taken to improve security and to improve the delivery of security service, then we think we'll have better security for the country.
Can you tell us the specific things Nigerians are to expect as a result of this summit?
Well, when you think of legislative interventions, you have to think of specifically where are the gaps. The truth is, most of the areas where you have issues in Nigeria, they already have one form of legislation or the other. Are these laws enough to deal with contemporary challenges? I think those are the things that be already reviewed. And then if we're saying that we need to have judicial reform, if we're saying we need to actually have police reform, those are the areas where the National Assembly will intervene to actually ensure that we have more robust laws and more robust organizations to deal with those challenges.
Let's look at the recommendations on a broader perspective, which has to do with the executive and other forms of intervention. Can you speak to us more on this, especially the part that has to do with the use of mercenaries?
Well, you see, at some point, a lot of people have felt that getting external persons to fight our wars may be difficult. At some point, we all felt that we are unpatriotic, but we're at some point now where we think that we need to take immediate decisive actions. So what we asked was to get military contractors. I'm sure the House did not say mercenaries. Military contractors could be people who have specialized skills in certain areas. What we're recommending is to procure capability in certain areas. I think that's what it is. Not mercenaries per se, because mercenaries, could be misinterpreted. Contractors could be people who are providing equipment, could be providing capacity in certain.
There's also one that talks about dealing with poverty and job creation. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned the issue of creating development agencies to deal with it. And then actions that will strengthen the economic delivery. because you find that poverty is at the root of all the crises we're facing. We're able to create more jobs. If we have better quality governance across all the sectors where we actually need some form of improvement in service delivery to at least ensure that people get more jobs, there's hope, because the reality is that most young people who go to criminality do that because they've given up on life to become hopeless. So we need to actually restore hope to the people.
This is not the first time we'll be having reports like this. In fact, we have had so many reports that are left on the shelf. How do you intend to convince Nigerians that this will be different?
I'm not aware of any previous report of this magnitude that involves a collaboration between the legislature and the executive. Mr. President received a report and hosted the National Assembly to say, thank you, you've done well. This is more like we've all accepted that the era in which we keep blaming each other is gone. This is an era of collaboration. I mean, I always like to use the Yoruba proverb that if a man sees a snake and a woman kills it, that doesn't matter. What matters is that the snake is killed. We're all collaborating now to say that this snake of insecurity in Nigeria is killed.
Looking at the state of insecurity in many parts of the country, how far do you think these recommendations can go?
Report will not solve a problem. The implementation will solve it. So now at this stage, both sides will collaborate to ensure that the report is implemented and that the intent of the reports, the whole idea of actually solving our problem is addressed.
Where do we begin, considering the fact that we've been trying to combat insecurity for over 10 years and looking at where we are at the moment?
Starting from understanding what the issues are, because all of us must understand that we have issues, understand the nature of the issues. Nigerians must understand that this is not a Buhari problem or an APC problem. It's a problem that it has so many areas, so many dimensions that require that all of us as Nigerians, not as partisans, not as politicians, not as Christians, not as Muslims, not as Northerners or Southerners, all of us sit down together and realize that we need to safeguard ourselves, we need to safeguard this country. I think that should be our starting point. When we've had that understanding, I think it will be easier to build on it with the capacity building of the security forces, with building their capability, and then take care of that every other action that addresses the issue of poverty.
You've talked about understanding. How does this affect the average person on the street who just wants to earn a decent living?
The average man wants to live. You understand that I cannot earn a living in the atmosphere of insecurity. The average man in Nigeria today wants security. It is when Nigeria is secure that I can push economic growth.
Considering how this matter has degenerated, a lot of Nigerians are losing hope. How would you restore the people's confidence in the government?
I think the actions we took, the National Assembly took in setting up the committee, writing the report, the action Mr. President took yesterday to receive the report and to actually host the National Assembly to say thank you, has steps that's already building confidence. It's shown that there is an understanding on both sides to solve a problem. So if we understand we have a problem, we're making efforts to solve it, that should start giving hope. And then I'm believing that once the implementation starts, people will have hope. Hope starts like a little tree. It starts small, it will grow. And I think the steps have been taken to at least to water the hope and let it germinate properly.
You seem so convinced that from the body language of Mr. President, there will be a different system with this report. How so?
I saw a very sincere man yesterday. I saw a man who is determined to make this country better. I saw a man who is desirous of leaving a legacy of actually solving the problems we're facing. He's a word man. And I believe and I trust that what I saw yesterday will be transformed into actually getting this country to move away from where we are now to where we should be.
With the defections we witness almost on a daily basis, does this in any way suggest that the country is gradually moving towards a one-party state? And is this good for Nigeria?
No, I don't think we're at that point now, because defections are coming from parties that are having internal crisis. The PDP, for instance, is fractionalized, and I think that's where members are finding they're looking for a safe haven, and APC has provided a safe haven for them. There's still other smaller parties that have members, and so if you have people moving from PDP to APC, it's not turning Nigeria to a one-party state. It's only turning to maybe out of the law for APC, the APC becoming a dominant party, not one-party state.
But how do we explain the challenges we have had in the life of this government? The fact that we do not have a formidable opposition, which is needed to keep the ruling party on its toes. How do you explain that?
Is it a responsibility of the ruling party to build a formidable opposition? It's not. The job of the ruling party is to rule. And the fact that we don't have a formidable opposition is probably a sign that the opposition does not have something better to offer. And if you don't have something better to offer, you actually sit down and tell yourself, these guys have better vision than we have, and you'll agree with them. I think that's what happened.
You have spoken about how hopeful we are seeing there is change in the turn of events relating to security. How do we build that confidence of the average man living in Nigeria today?
You see, the average man on the streets is looking for hope. And I told you that it will come one step after the other. We have started by taking the right action. The president has taken a further action saying that, look, I support what you're doing. Don't forget that in years past, it will have been the executive coming in and say it's an exercise in futility. It's happened in this country, which the legislature took actions and the executive said it was an exercise in futility. This time around, it was accepted. I did mention that it is a recognition that we have to build a symbiotic relationship. We have to fight our battles together. I think that's what's needed. The body language of everybody on the government side now is that we want to fight this battle together. And I think it will give hope to Nigerians. I do believe too, once implementation starts, if you have 40,000 trained mobile policemen, I'm sure that even you will feel secure being on the road. They will be able to take action. They will reduce the need for us to call on the military every time there's a crisis. And then the military will be able to concentrate on dealing with issues of insurgency and terrorism.
Is it enough to just put 40,000 trained officers on the road without any form of assistance or even arms? How does this development guarantee the safety of Nigerians?
No, you have to. I'm sure you listen to me. I said building capacity and building capability. They're two different things. Capacity has to do with the training. Capability has to do with the wherewithal, the tools that they use to do their business. 40,000 mobile policemen, not 40,000. I mean, the police is still recruiting, and at some point, the United Nations, if you look at the United Nations figure, we are under police, and I think steps are being taken to increase the number of policemen in Nigeria. And then, what we have now recommended is not just increasing the number, increasing the capability of the persons, what we call the operational personnel of the police force. I think they should expect an elite police force. And then they can rest assured that there will be better security.
How soon are we going to see these recommendations being implemented?
The president promised that it's going to start immediately once the report is studied, and that they will start implementation immediately.
So what is that monitoring mechanism the House and the National Assembly will be putting in place, considering the fact that the National Assembly is expected to perform optimally in terms of oversight functions?
Don't forget that the National Assembly has, as part of its constitutional role, the idea of actually oversighting all these activities. So you don't need a special mechanism to oversight. It is what our job should be every day. We oversight on a daily basis. You see, I don't know who is talking about up and doing, because what Nigerians say, those who use the word up and doing, expect is that when National Assembly is carrying out its oversight, they should go with camera crew to criticize. The oversight sometimes could be one in which you find an issue and you call the other party and help them correct it. Oversight is not going to be on television or on the pages of newspapers. It's something that you do sometimes behind closed doors, especially when it has to do with national security. For Nigerians to have hope, because hope is the most important item we need now. If our younger people just believe that this country can be better, the need to go into criminality will be reduced. Let's hope that this country will be better and we can all work towards it.
As we approach another general elections in 2023, and with the current security situation, do you have any fears or doubts about the coming elections?
I don't live in a world where there's speculation about the future. God rules the future. So let's not speculate about 2 years from now. We've heard stories before that Nigeria will collapse before 2015 and 2021. We are alive, Nigeria has not collapsed, Nigeria is still strong, and Nigeria will be stronger, and 2023 will come and it will go and we will be alive. And there will be an election, we will elect a new president, and we'll have a stronger country.
That's the program for this week. You can watch it again on TVC News YouTube channel. Do not forget to subscribe and share on all social media platforms. Thank you for watching. See you next time.